Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 192 of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. I'm so excited about this episode of the podcast, and I'm looking forward to sharing some thoughts for today. And as always, I encourage you to share this podcast with those people who you value and those people who you think can and may be benefited by what's being shared on the Nora Speaks podcast. Some people have asked me on different occasions, what keeps me inspired with the podcast? What is it that keeps me going? The podcast journey can be it can be a difficult journey. Podcasting is work. Podcasting requires your time. Podcasting, and not just the time that it takes to record, but also the time that it takes to prepare, the time that it takes to edit, all of the graphic stuff, the promotional stuff. So podcasting takes time, but like anything else, if you feel excited about what you're doing, that helps. The excitement isn't what anchors the podcast or any work. The anchoring really comes from a dedication and a consistency and a determination to produce whatever it is that you're working on. So for me, that is the anchor. However, the inspiration comes from my people and the needs of my people, what I see as what our community needs. And I'm also inspired by everything that I've learned and how the learning, the acquiring of knowledge, education, training, the development that has occurred in my life through the community work that I do, that inspires me to want to share it with others because I have benefited so much. And, we shouldn't be selfish, and whatever good that we have, if it's good for us, it should be good for others. And so I am very excited to share the wisdom and the knowledge that others have shared with me. I want to share that with you. So that is the answer to that question about what inspires me. And so in episode 192, I was motivated to have this conversation from something that I actually observed while I was driving in my hometown. And if driving through your community and you're just observing people, places, things, you can generate a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts. And in particular for this episode, I saw a sister walking from one building to another. Where I live, it's considered an eds and meds corridor, meaning there are educational institutions as well as medical institutions, hospitals, clinics. And they're probably two of the biggest drivers of industry or income in this town where I live. And I saw a young Black woman walking through our eds and meds corridor, and she had on what appeared to be a uniform and a badge, and it occurred to me she's probably employed by one of the institutions here. And I observed the sister with a very, very ill-fitting bra, and I didn't know her. She's just walking down the street. I'm driving by. Well, I don't know whether she recognized it or not, whether she looked in the mirror before she left her house, whether anyone has said anything to her. I don't know, but it made me think about what we must share with our young ladies, what we must teach our girls as they are developing into young women and looking to be someone that may be a student, someone that may be an employee, an entrepreneur. And there's just some basic tenets and training that we cannot neglect to give to our young people. And we can't fault our young women for not knowing what we didn't teach them. So when we see them in the community, outside of their homes, inside their homes, and we see something that's inappropriate, something that lacks refinement, then we have to look at ourselves and identify whether or not we've created channels so that our young women are really being cultivated and they're being groomed and they're being trained into womanhood. And there's nothing wrong with the word training. I know some may say, training is for animals. Well, we're all trained, right? We're trained to see a red light and stop, right? We're trained to see a green light and go. So training is just about understanding how we should respond to what's happening around us, how we should walk, talk, dress, right? When we're in school and our teachers are teaching us the ABCs, that's training. So when I'm using the word training, please do not think that I am trying to compare our women or our people to animals, but everyone needs training, whether you're going to be a plumber, whether you're going to be a nurse, a doctor, an electrician, right? Life requires training. So I'm speaking about it in that context. And we can't leave our young women to fend for themselves and try to figure life out on their own, because if they who lack knowledge, who may lack experience, who lack resources, when they don't know, then they're just going to do the best that they have with what they have. And when we lack information, when we lack resources, when we lack guidance, sometimes our best just isn't good enough. So we really have to look at ourselves and make sure that we are fortifying our young women with the skills and the knowledge that they have so that they can demonstrate to the community that they have refinement, that they are dignified, that they know what to do, how to do it, how to speak, how to dress, how to conduct themselves in the workplace. I'd done a podcast episode some time ago, and I was sharing with the audience that there are now employers who used to, and in some cases continue to be, the primary employer of our adolescent population. For example, fast food, retail. There are some companies or some local retailers that just don't want to hire our young people because they lack training, because they come late, because they leave early. They stay out too late on their breaks. They don't know how to speak to customers or to clients. And because of any employer wants to provide the best service and the best representation, if they want to maintain their client population, they're not looking for our young people because what they're seeing is a lack of training. So I believe that it's very important that our young people, our young women, our young men receive training. And we just do a total disservice when we don't teach them, when we don't train them, and when we're not leading them. And in those instances where there is a parent deficit or a deficit of guidance in a young woman's home, then she's yours, she's mine, and it's our responsibility to in some way be an example, to be a role model, and just to love her enough to share something with her that you may think that can be beneficial. And this doesn't have to occur in a condescending kind of way. It doesn't have to be a biting criticism. Ask her, do you know about such and such? If you don't, I can help you. I can share something with you. But we have to take responsibility for our young people. So, as I said, there are some things, and there's so many different areas that we have to make sure our young women are trained and taught in. And some of those include their personal grooming and their dress, their speaking and language, education and career, and home and family. And so I'll just touch on two. I'll touch on the personal grooming and the dress and home and family. And as I said, there's so much, and we can dedicate weeks to breaking each of these categories down. Personal grooming and dress, we can dedicate an entire show for just that. But I will just do it in segments, just for the sake of time. And this is something that I may come back and elaborate here, or also go back to speaking and language and education and career. But for this episode, I'm just going to address personal grooming and dress, and home and family. And first, I want to go back to talking about dignity. And dignity is something that every young woman should want to display to the best of her ability. And this is not about necessarily having money or having great means. We can do a lot with a little, and it's our culture has just been so dumbed down, and we've become so casual, and quite frankly, very, very disinhibited, right? So there's no shame, right? There's no shame that the woman shows when she's leaving her house. And I suggest that for us to restore our dignity, then we can't operate in a disinhibited way, inside our homes or outside our homes. So let's just talk about personal grooming and dress. As I mentioned, a well-fitted bra. Our young women should know how to purchase a bra, how to be measured for a bra, how to recognize the difference between the sizes, cup sizes, and even the adjustment of the bra straps, right? They may not know that, and they just get this thing and they're just putting it on because this is what they're supposed to buy. But I remember when I had my first bra, my aunt took me to the store and she showed me how to put it on, how to make the adjustments in the straps. And it was awkward and it was uncomfortable, but she didn't care about that. She knew that this is something that, one, I needed to wear once I reached a certain developmental stage. And this is how I'm going to need to be informed just as a young woman navigating life. So, the awkwardness and the embarrassment, I don't know if she felt it. I felt plenty of it, but I don't know that she cared. And that wasn't more important than making sure that I represented myself properly and had the appropriate support. So making sure our young women understand how to find a well-fitted bra, making the proper adjustments, and that one should always be worn outside of the home. We should always wear a bra outside of the home. It is such a, I don't know, the word dignified is just stuck in my brain. It's such an undignified thing to see a young woman or a woman walking around outside with no bra on, with her breasts hanging loose and moving about. That, they may think that may have some kind of sex appeal, but quite frankly, it looks trashy. It looks trashy, and our young women should not be outside of the house looking trashy. I'll even add, since we're talking about bras, that we should be wearing them in the home, especially if we have sons. When our little babies, our little tots and toddlers are so young that they might not really appreciate a woman's nakedness. After our children get to be a certain age, then even we should even wear a bra in the home around our sons, or at the most wear a robe. I have a friend whose son spent the night over his friend's house, another young boy's house, and the mom, I don't know if it's a normal practice, but she wasn't wearing a bra. And so the son looked at his friend with this embarrassed look, almost to apologize. But that's just so inappropriate. It is very, very inappropriate. And so making sure that our bras fit appropriately, our young ladies should be checking themselves in the mirror before they leave, after they put on their top, their blouse, their t-shirt, making sure that it's fitting appropriately. And just my last point about that is our nipples shouldn't be protruding through our clothes. And I know that that may occur for some women more than others, but there are items that we can purchase so that that isn't something that's happening. I've seen now that they're selling bras that have points, so it appears that a woman's nipples are protruding, which, man, times are really, really, really changing. And we have such a provocative culture, such a sexual culture, that I can't say I'm surprised, but I'll just say that can contribute to a kind of trashy appearance. And you may say, well, you're sounding judgmental, and that may be the case, but I want to provide an accurate assessment for our young women so that when they're going about in public, they understand what they are representing and how they are going to be received. So a well-fitted bra, always wearing one outside the home. Our hair should be finished. Our hair should be done when we leave the house. We should be grooming ourselves. We should be making sure and wanting our hair to look good if we're going to be leaving the house. And frankly, even if you're in the house, you don't want to look like a truck ran over you. You want to make sure that you're looking good, even if you're in the house. And I'm not saying that you're always going to, if you're not leaving the house, then you need to look your best, but you don't want to look undone. And we certainly shouldn't look undone if we're leaving the house. The next point about this is outside clothes are for the outside, and inside clothes are for the inside, meaning pajamas are not outerwear. Slippers are not outerwear. And the clothes that we wear outside should be appropriate for outside the house, right? I'm not going to wear, and I hope that you're not going to wear something like a negligee outside the house. Although in this culture, anything goes, I would advise against that, right? There are clothes that are appropriate for outside the house, and there are clothes that are not appropriate for outside of the house. I'll just add this on there that think about, especially if we use public transportation, if we have to go into offices where we're sitting in chairs that aren't our own. Maybe you have your own office and you have your chair, but maybe if we have to go visit an office, you're getting your taxes done, you're had to visit the ER or a clinic, you're going to a restaurant and you're sitting down on a stool or on a chair. Really think about if you want to sit down on your bed in those same clothes that you sat down on the bus, on the train, on the plane, in the doctor's office, at the restaurant, in the movie theater. Really think about if you want to bring whatever it is on your clothes and place that on your couch or on your bed. There's kind of this joke that I've seen online about how Black women do not wear their outside clothes onto their beds. And I don't know if that's something that all Black women do, but I know me and my friends, we just are very uncomfortable about wearing outside clothes and sitting on our bedspreads or on our couches. Really think about the kind of germs. I mean, I'm an avid watcher of 2020, and I remember they used to always do these investigations where they would find or show us all of the germs that are in hotel rooms, that are on public transportation, the seats and restaurant chairs, and so that we have an idea of the kind of germs and bacteria that we're bringing into our homes. So that's something to think about. But the main point is that outside clothes are for the outside and inside clothes are for the inside. And then just to add, bonnets are not hats. Bonnets are not hats, and they should not be worn outside of the home. Just adding more in the personal grooming and dress category, bathe daily. Bathe daily and more often when needed. This is what I'm saying that we have to teach our young women, that they should be bathing daily and more often when needed. You know, there's a time in an adolescent's life where their bodies are changing, and for some whatever reason, I don't know the mechanics or the physiological explanation, but adolescents, teenagers, they stink. They just stink. I've raised teenage sons. I've been around teenage girls, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know if their body's just secreting extra oil, sebaceous glands. I don't really know what's going on there, but we want to encourage them to bathe often, to wash their hair often, to use appropriate personal grooming products, lotions, the right kind of deodorants. Make sure that they are bathing often. We got to teach them this, and more often as needed. Make sure that they know that they should brush and floss their teeth regularly, at least twice daily, or after every meal. You know, oral health is very important, and nobody wants to be around someone that smells bad. I know, raising my children, I would tell them if they were having an issue, and I said, you want to hear it from mom, you don't want to hear it from your friends. Let me tell you before anyone else has to tell you. So we have to make sure that they are attending to their personal care needs. And for our young women, help them understand how to address menstrual care, right? They should be changing their sanitary napkins often. They should be staying well supplied. They should make sure that they always have something in their purse should they come on this cycle unexpected. And it's really important that we help them understand how they should be worn, the right size that they should be wearing. Help them understand how to even track their cycle. That's something that they should be taught. I don't know if this is something that's still taught in the schools, but they should know that they can track their cycle. They should be able to identify, their flow. If does it start off heavy? Does it start off light and end out heavy? So that they can have the appropriate sanitary pads. And I know that tampons are popular, but they are not ideal. Toxic shock syndrome is real, and tampons are just not ideal. It's not something that should be regularly used. I know when some young ladies do sports and different activities, they just don't like the sanitary napkin. It's just not comfortable, but they're better for you. They're healthier for you. I remember a doctor saying that that our bodies, or at least our vaginas, are like self-cleaning ovens. We don't need to put anything inside to clean it. So using deodorant, suppositories, and douches, I advise against that. And you could talk to your doctor, and your young person can talk to her doctor. But we don't need to be doing anything like that. If there's some kind of odor or discolored discharge, make sure that they know signs that require a doctor's attention, especially if they're going to be sexually active. They should be they should have a gynecologist or a primary care doctor that attends to those needs, so that they can, if they happen to get a vaginal infection, that they can get an antibiotic. But just in terms of general health, tampons are not ideal. And, our young women should remember to drink plenty of water, eat plenty of fruits and vegetables so that they can stay healthy. And again, if they are on their menstrual cycle, let them know you may be bathing more than once. And that's not unnormal. That's not unusual. Just giving them these basic care tips. It's we may be surprised after being 35, 40, and these may be things that we just forgot about. We may have forgotten what it's like to be an adolescent, to be a tween, even that's starting a menstrual cycle. We might forget what that is like. So, sometimes we have to cast our imaginations back and try to remember that and think about what the young lady in your life, or the young women in your mentorship program, or the young lady in your classroom, think about the things that they may need to know that they don't know, and make sure that they know it. So those are just some tips regarding personal grooming and dress. And just for home and family, I just have a few things I wanted to address here, that we should stay on top of our young women and make sure that they know. One, and the reason why I say this before I get to number one, ideally, at some point, a young woman will have her own home, right? She'll move out of the home of mom and dad, and she may be married. She may not be married, but she may have children with her husband. But even if she's just going off to college, maybe it's her first apartment, these are some things that she should know. One, how to properly clean and organize her home. In whatever that looks like, the appropriate cleaning products, knowing, for example, not to mix ammonia and bleach, or they might be visiting the ER or having EMTs come to their home, knowing how to use cleaning products appropriately, knowing how to use protective barrier like gloves, knowing the tools that they need to clean the various areas in their home, and helping them understand how to organize a home. The second thing, cooking and nutrition. Our young ladies should know how to cook at least simple, basic meals. They should know how to store food. For example, you don't want anything with mayonnaise out all day. You don't want to leave dairy products out because they can spoil. Meat can spoil. Helping them understand food preparation, food storage, and the nutritional outcomes of certain foods, right? Not too much sugar, not too much fat, not too much salt, plenty of fiber, plenty of fruit, plenty of vegetables. So helping them understand cooking and nutrition is important. The third thing, our young women should know how to identify a potential partner, right? Helping them know the traits in a partner that would make somebody desirable for marriage, desirable for fatherhood. Boys are cute. Boys are cute. And attraction and lust can be very, very compelling, right? But when you're planning to make a life with somebody, you want to make sure, and they want to make sure, that they know key traits and characteristics that they should be looking for. Heck, does the person even have character? Would this person make for a good father? Does he even want to be a father, right? So these are some things that they should know. And they should feel confident that when they are dating or courting, that they feel confident that when they're asking certain questions, that they are entitled to the answers, to get to know the young man's family, to get to know his habits, to see the kind of friends that he hangs around, to ask him questions about what he sees in his future, so that she is making a good choice, or at least she's equipped with the tools to make a good choice. Also, with helping to identify a potential partner, don't hide him from your family, right? I know that girls sneak around with boys, but it is not a good practice for a girl to be hiding a man or hiding a boy from her family, because that leaves her unprotected. And if she is unprotected, anything can happen to her because she doesn't have someone that's looking over her shoulder, someone that understands that she's in a relationship, that she is involved with this guy. She may not even, or family members may not even know when she's out where to look for her if she doesn't turn up, right? Because sometimes these young ladies hide. Maybe the man's married and he wants her to be a secret. I tell young women, you should never be someone's secret. You don't want to be somebody's secret. You're better than to be with a man in secrecy. And if someone is trying to keep you a secret, then something's just not right. And they should feel confident to be able to be forthright about what they're looking for, and the expectations in a relationship. The fourth thing under a home and family, our young women should have some basic ideas with rearing their children, the children that they're going to have. One thing that we can probably guarantee is that most of our girls are going to be mothers and most of our boys are going to be fathers. There are some things that a young woman should know. I went back, going back to food prep, right? If most of our young ladies are going to be mothers, they should understand basic meal prep, right? And that the microwave is not the key tool to use in food preparation for a family, right? But some of our young women don't know how to cook without a microwave. Some of our young women don't want to cook. For some, it's takeout all the time, right? So helping them prepare for child rearing. And it's not because we want to rush them into having a child, but so that when they do, they are equipped and they have the support of aunts and mothers, grandmothers, neighbors, and friends who can help them along the way, and have an understanding of what it is like to love a child, understanding that rearing a child is a heavy lift. It's an intense job. It's a rewarding and beautiful job. But it's not something that is done casually or as an afterthought. It's something that is a primary responsibility of a woman when she has a child, is to rear that child, so that that child can be whole and that cycle of life continues. And then the last thing I'll add in home and family, ironing, sewing, laundry, right? Just those basic things. These are self-care skills that a young person should have and should know how to use an iron, understand the settings on the iron. For example, you don't, for silk and for cotton, you don't use the same heat setting, right? Help them understand how to use an iron, how to choose a good iron. Sewing, right? If a button comes off, they should know how to replace that button. If they need to hem a pair of pants, they should know how to use a needle and thread. It'd be great, ideally, if they could use a sewing machine, maybe make their own clothes, make clothes for their children, but at least have the understanding of how to use a needle and thread and to lay down some stitches when they need. And then laundering of clothes, right? Understanding separating the darks from the whites, understanding temperature settings, understanding that hot water can set in a stain, right? So you want to be careful using hot water even on your whites if you are trying to address a stain, because hot water that heat can set in a stain. So, just some basic things, and understanding the good laundry detergent, right? When to use bleach, when to use a pre-treatment on your clothes. Understanding that some clothes you don't put in the dryer, right? Some clothes you hand wash, some clothes you air dry. So just some basic things. Look, I don't know if this is what I'm talking about, maybe considered home economics, but it's good to know. And our young women, more often than not, in what I'm seeing in our communities, they're just ill-equipped and they're ill-informed. And if they're ill-equipped and if they're ill-informed, it's because we didn't do what we needed to do to make sure that they were fortified. So if you have a niece, if you have a daughter, if you have a granddaughter, if you have a neighbor that in the household has a young lady, and it may appear that she doesn't know some things, and if you're friendly with that family, if you have a relationship, if she's in your church, if she's at your temple, your mosque, if she's in your school, let's not just watch these young women walk around ill-informed, uninformed, and lacking experience and knowledge so that they can attend to their basic care needs. And, if they do, then, we are to blame. We can't fault our young women for not knowing what we did not teach them. You may have more to add to this list, and I'd certainly like to hear what you think and what you think is missing. Speaking in language, we can get to that later, as well as education and career. Just some basic things that we need to make sure our young women know as they enter the world outside of our homes. So this has been a great experience sharing this with you, and I hope that you will share it with others. Until next time, stay in peace.
Help us to make our beautiful young girls that which they should be. Now, you are the most beautifulest woman on earth, and I saw several girls and women out of the nations over in Asia and Africa, and I have not found any of them that as beautiful as you are. On the whole, you are the most beautifulest people there is in the world. You don't think so, but you are.
Food for thought with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, norahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@norahspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.